Like in 2025, you can identify as anything other than exactly what you are if you're a white, straight, fucking Christian male.
Ain't no room for hate, not in this place. Twisting up the stories just to justify race. Talking about pride, but they living in lies. Time to burn that mask, see the fear in their eyes.
Hello, it's Monday, March 10th, 2025. I'm Don Reberté. Thanks for joining us for the third and final part of our look at Todd, known as generally specific, and his views that unremarkably reflect those of Christian white nationalists in America and abroad. Views they share among themselves and to whoever will listen and be potentially influenced by their lies and distortions. In part one of our series, we examined the foundation of this ideology, fear. The belief that white people are under constant siege, that lawlessness is rising, and that their way of life is being systematically dismantled. A narrative that paints them as victims in a society where the odds are unfairly stacked against them, and the law is either complicit or actively working against them. Part two took us deeper into the fantasy, exploring the idea of a so-called white genocide, a baseless but persistent claim that white people are slowly being eradicated, whether through declining birth rates, immigration, or some shadowy orchestrated plot. The fear that if something isn't done, their very existence is at stake. Which brings us to today, the final piece of the puzzle, the who and the why. The latter remains intentionally vague, shrouded in conspiracy and half-truths, designed to shift and evolve to fit the moment. But the who, that's usually far more specific. Because to make the fear real, to turn paranoia into action, there must be an enemy. Someone or some group against whom the blame can be directed, whether or not they have any real connection to the problem. An enemy that must be perceived as both powerful and ruthless, ensuring that the threat feels immediate and existential. So, who does Todd blame? If you guess the same groups white nationalists have scapegoated for generations, you'd be right. Their playbook never changes, just new buzzwords and platforms. For Todd, there must be a hidden force corrupting society, replacing what he sees as the rightful order. The accused? Always the same, tied to old and new conspiracy theories that fuel hate. Let's hear it from him directly.
To me, it's a Mossad plot. It's the NGOs. It's people complicit that are bought and paid for by the Epstein stuff, the Mossad agents, the corruption, the honeypotting that's going on. 100%, guys. This is being allowed to happen to our country because there's a bunch of weak perverts in office right now that have basically squandered our kids and our kids' futures for immediate gratification or some weird thing that they do in the bedroom or some underage child enthusiast stuff. So because they got compromised, now all of a sudden we all got to suffer. And these NGOs that are being bankrolled by our Federal Reserve printing off money like it's going out of style in order to cause an artificial inflation. This is all on purpose, for a purpose, with a purpose, folks. It's all being done to us. It's not just happening, guys. These things are not just happening. There's not just happenstance on this one. You know, you can't go from being a country that was, running itself well, taking care of itself well for like a long, long time, and then all of a sudden, there's incompetence all around running rampant. That's just not how that works, guys. It's just not how it works. That makes absolutely no sense. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're compromised on purpose, for a purpose, with a purpose.
As expected, the enemy, in Todd's view, turns out to be Jewish people. Along with government officials he claims are easily controlled due to their supposed criminal or sexual proclivities. He tries to shield his conspiratorial racism by insisting it's just specific Jews, but press him on it, and he falls back on an old trope. The so-called synagogue of Satan, a common white supremacist dog whistle. Now that he has framed the cause, he must define the struggle, the so-called truth, leading to the eventual threat.
It's quite clear to me that people haven't reached that limit yet. Because if they have, then they would have revolted by now, right? They would have revolted. Same thing in America. We haven't been pushed far enough, because if we had, we would have revolted by now. I legit think that the whole summer of love, the rampaging on our city streets and the burning our cities down, and these Marxists running around, these communist Marxists running around talking smack about our country and waving other nations' flags. I think that was an attempted dog whistle to try to get people like myself, to get us to get mobilized, to get us angry, to get us to go out into the streets and to fight. And for reasons that I kind of can't figure, maybe it's just maybe God's telling us to be patient, not to fall for their little trap. And the reason why they want us to go to the streets and fight is so that they can declare us unruly or unrulable, right? Mobs, and that we need to be controlled and they need to take our guns away.
The claim is always the same. People are blind to the threat, making it easy for the conspirators to manipulate and strip away their power. This fear tactic isn't just about control, it's about recruitment. Todd, like others who push this narrative, uses it to find like-minded believers, reinforcing their paranoia so they don't feel alone. But don't worry, there's always a rallying cry. Hate just waits for the right moment, or the excuse to strike.
What I'm going to say is that white people are really, really nice until they're not. And then all those little things that we get accused of, being conquerors, warmongers, bloodthirsty, colonizers, all that stuff really starts to shine. Or it should shine in the dull eyes of the retards that are making those accusations, right? Do people not realize how short-sighted it is? Right? How short-sighted it is to crawl into a cave of a hibernating bear and start poking it with a stick.
The most unsettling part of white supremacist ideologies is how easily the enemy can change. Because at its core, it's never really about the target. It's about a craving for violence, a misplaced anger redirected at whatever's most convenient. Todd, like others, projects his frustration onto an imagined oppressor rather than confronting his own shortcomings. His reasons are his own, but the pattern is familiar. Unfulfilled expectations, fear of the future, and often deeper insecurities. While we can't diagnose Todd, we don't need to speculate on what's clear. He may not wear the symbols or join an official group, but his rhetoric is unmistakably that of a white supremacist. And as history shows, words like his rarely stay just words. And that wraps up our look into Todd's thinly veiled white supremacy. You, the viewer, can decide for yourself what Todd is or isn't. As we said at the start, the goal here was never to change Todd's mind, or anyone else's. This was simply a glimpse into how he spends his days, spewing unchecked rage, lies, and bigotry across his gaming and regular channels. So from all of us here at News, and especially from Spider Dog himself, we leave you with this simple message. Todd, go fuck yourself. It's Monday, March 10th, 2025. I'm Don Reporte. Have a great day.
Like in 2025, you can identify as anything other than exactly what you are if you're a white, straight, fucking Christian male.